Friendly reminder. This movie, released in 2006, can definitely be considered the pinnacle of domestic horror films. Unlike other ghost movies, the strange thread tells that humans actually wish to become ghosts. The story begins. A paranormal research team discovers the world's first ghost. Team leader Hashimoto seeks to understand the reason for the ghost's existence. So he brings in ADong, a former Special Forces soldier, to handle the investigation. Do you believe there are ghosts in the world? Any normal person would not believe in the existence of ghosts, let alone ADong, who has extensive combat experience. To make ADong believe in the existence of ghosts, Hashimoto takes him to a glass window. On the other side was originally an empty room, but after spraying a special liquid on his eyes, ADong suddenly discovers that the room, which was just empty, now has a little boy curled up in the corner. After a while, the boy suddenly got up and walked to the window. He picked up an apple and took a bite. Then he stood in front of the window, looking outside. His lips kept moving. It seemed like he was talking to himself. What was he saying? It's raining. Seeing that ADong could read lips, Hashimoto was not surprised at all, because this was exactly why he asked ADong for help. However, when ADong looked outside, he found that it was just overcast outside, with no rain at all. At that moment, Hashimoto's assistant controlled the device, and turned on the television in the room. But the boy remained oblivious. He silently returned to the corner, and continued to squat on the ground without saying a word. The assistant told ADong, the little boy repeats his actions from life every day, and is unaware of the changes in the outside world. Just then, 3206, ADong noticed that the boy's ghost still wanted to go outside. As a result, he was bounced back as soon as he touched the doorknob. And all of this is because Hashimoto sprinkled a substance on the door, called Mengia sponge. This substance is Hashimoto's latest invention. It can absorb various energies from nature, thereby achieving anti-gravity effects. In Hashimoto's view, ghosts are also a form of energy. Once Mengia sponge absorbs enough energy from ghosts, it could even help humans break free from the constraints of gravity. Therefore, the urgent task is to investigate the cause of this ghost's formation, so that they can create a large number of ghosts. Under Hashimoto's relentless persuasion, ADong finally agreed to help. However, before the investigation began, ADong suddenly learned some unexpected news, that this seemingly harmless little ghost had actually killed someone. It turns out that the research team had hired a foreign photographer to search for ghosts. Let him use the film coated with Mengia sponge. Go to various haunted houses to take photos. Once there is a ghost in the room, it will inevitably appear in the photo. The photographer originally thought this time would be just as fruitless as before. But just as he finished shooting the corner of the room, a figure of a boy gradually appeared on the film. The photographer didn't expect that he actually captured a ghost, so he instinctively looked towards the corner. But it was still empty there. Unexpectedly, in the next second, a ghostly shadow flashed by. The photographer immediately felt as if someone was choking him. He then died tragically on the spot. According to the autopsy results, the photographer died of cardiac paralysis. But ADong's intuition told him that things were definitely not that simple. So he brought two of Hashimoto's assistants to the morgue to personally conduct another autopsy on the photographer. Indeed, there is a new discovery. It turns out that on the photographer's heart, there is actually a child's fingerprint. This can only be caused by the boy's ghost. But if he has the ability to kill, then why hasn't he attacked Hashimoto and the others for so long? Thinking of this, ADong conducted a scene simulation. He speculated that after the photographer saw this photo, he would subconsciously look towards the boy's location. At this moment, the most likely thing to happen is that their eyes, one human and one ghost, would meet. Could it be that he doesn't like being looked at? Just as they were investigating the cause of the photographer's death, another assistant of Hashimoto, Sugina, actually took advantage of everyone's absence and planned to steal the boy's ghost. She sprayed the liquefied Mengia sponge onto a newspaper. Then she walked into the haunted house. She collected the boy's ghost into the newspaper, but she never expected that Hashimoto suddenly returned to the laboratory, and without hesitation, locked her inside the haunted house. Suna finally understood. Hashimoto had actually seen long ago that she coveted these research results, so he specifically created an opportunity for her to steal. He planned to catch her red-handed and drive her away, but he didn't expect Suna actually wanted to steal the boy as well. Such an exciting plot. I must share this with my girlfriend. Are you still watching movies alone? Why not try using a dating app? It accurately locates single beauties in the same city as soon as you log in. The profiles are rich and detailed. If you like someone, swipe right to chat. If you feel a spark, remember to use the app to find cute girls. At this time, ADong and the others also rushed back to the laboratory, but Suna still insisted. The boy's ghost left on its own. It has nothing to do with her. After saying that, she opened her clothes to try to prove her innocence. However, ADong had already noticed the half sheet of newspaper on the ground. Therefore, he guessed that she had wrapped the boy in the newspaper using Mengia's sponge. So the boy must be hidden in her pocket. Shan Kai realized that her little trick had been seen through. She could only choose to accept her fate. But just as she unfolded the newspaper, she discovered that the boy inside was actually gone. Meanwhile, ADong and the others looked at Shan Kai with expressions that suddenly revealed fear. Listen carefully. Whatever you do, don't turn your head to the left. You absolutely must not turn your head. But after hearing ADong's warning, Shan Kai not only ignored it but insisted on looking to the left. As a result, she instantly made eye contact with the ghost behind her. The next second, a thin, long thread suddenly appeared on the boy's forehead, and his arms became solid. He tightly grasped Shankai's neck. Unfortunately, when ADong burst in through the door, Shankai has already become a corpse, and the boy, who is the culprit, stands by the window as if nothing happened. Seeing this, ADong had no choice but to move Shankai's body outside. But at that moment, something strange happened again. Shankai's soul unexpectedly separated from her body. Then she stood up and looked at Hashimoto. But just as she was about to take a few steps, she instantly vanished without a trace. Hashimoto told everyone. In general, after a person dies, the soul usually only lingers for a short while, and then completely disappears. However, there is a type of person whose soul can linger for a long time. Just like the little boy they caught. To gather more information, a few of them decided to open the haunted house door and let the child out, to see where he actually wanted to go. After the boy left the room, ADong followed closely behind, neither too far nor too near. A person and a ghost walk like this for a whole day. Finally, they arrived at an elementary school. ADong speculated that this should be the boy's former school. He saw the boy walk into the classroom and sit at a desk. The boy posed as if he were reading. After a while, he hurried to the school hallway again. But at that moment, ADong was surprised to discover the boy's neck suddenly became covered in tumors. Just as he was puzzled, the boy suddenly jumped down from above and fell heavily to the ground. Immediately after, he stood up again. He sat alone by the playground. It seemed he was waiting for his parents to pick him up after school. Mom. The daylilies have bloomed. After saying this, the boy instinctively wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Then he went alone to the bus station. ADong thought the bus would take a while to arrive. It would be better to go across the street to buy something to fill his stomach first. Just at that moment, a drunk man ran in front of the boy to urinate, and happened to make eye contact with him. The boy immediately raised his hands towards him, preparing to take this man's life. ADong immediately drew his gun upon seeing this, spraying liquefied Mengia sponge on the bullets, then fired several shots at the boy. Although he fortunately saved the drunkard, he also attracted the patrolling police. What ADong didn't expect even more was, after the boy realized ADong was harming him, he actually charged directly in front of him. Fortunately, ADong was a former Special Forces soldier. He had a very strong mental fortitude, even when the boy held onto his shoulders, and pressed his head tightly against his forehead. ADong still insisted on not making eye contact with him. The boy could only give up upon seeing this. But just as ADong let out a sigh of relief, he was preparing to continue leaving with the boy. The police suddenly fired a shot behind him. Although the cautious ADong had already put on a bulletproof vest, he was still pinned to the ground and restrained by the police. At that moment, he was surprised to discover that there was a faint thread under the boy's feet. Could there be a secret behind this? The next morning, Hashimoto used his connections to bail ADong out. ADong went straight to the boy's school as soon as he left the police station. He thought it would take a lot of effort to find out the boy's identity. To his surprise, things went unusually smoothly. Because the boy was the first student since the school was established, the only student to have committed suicide by jumping off a building. Therefore, the teachers had a very deep impression of him. According to the teacher's account, ADong learned that the boy's name was Chen Yaoshi. He suffered from an incurable tumor disease, which often led to him being mocked by his classmates. In the end, Chen Yaoshi could no longer endure the criticism. He chose to commit suicide by jumping off a building. But what no one expected was that Yaoshi's mother was also at the scene. However, she not only did not try to save her dying son, but instead wanted to take the opportunity to strangle him. If it weren't for the school teacher who stopped her in time, Yaoshi would have definitely died on the spot. Just a few months later, Yaoshi was taken by his mother back to their hometown to plant flowers. Upon hearing this news, ADong couldn't help but remember the daylilies that Yaoshi had mentioned. He suspected that Yaoshi was very likely killed by his mother. Moreover, the body was buried in their family's daylily field. So ADong came to that flower field with Hashimoto and a few others. As he expected, they indeed dug up Yaoshi's body there, killed by his own mother. He must have died with intense hatred. After Hashimoto finished speaking, he suddenly realized he had found the reason for the ghost's appearance. First, the area beneath the daylilies is the radiation center. It has been continuously emitting a large magnetic field, and Yao Zai's burial site happens to be the center of the entire magnetic field. Moreover, he died with intense hatred. The combination of these two factors makes Yao Shi a unique ghost. Since he knows how to create a ghost, the next step is to study how to deal with the boy's ghost. But before they could come to a conclusion, they were surprised to find that the boy was actually lying on the laboratory glass. For so long, it was the first time Yao Shi had acted like this. When ADong approached the glass, he saw the fine threads reappear beneath the boy's feet. ADong felt that this thread was definitely not simple, so he followed the thread all the way to a shelter. He soon discovered the other end of the thread. It was surprisingly connected to Yoshi's mother. Unfortunately, Yoshi's mother's condition suddenly worsened. Ultimately, the rescue failed and she was declared dead. Meanwhile, this was Hashimoto, who was determined to study ghosts. Suddenly, he used a Mengia sponge to take the boy away. Then he vanished into thin air. Only his usual cane was left in the room. But even stranger was, after Yoshi's mother died, her ghost did not disappear. Instead, it stood beside ADong, until she noticed that ADong had no intention of making eye contact. Then she crawled away in a strange manner. Seeing this, ADong hurried downstairs to chase after her. But unexpectedly, Yoshi's mother quickly disappeared before his eyes. And in the blink of an eye, she was next to Hashimoto's assistant, Aren. At this moment, Aren had just finished eating noodles in the restaurant. He then saw a thread. It was connecting through the noodle soup to his forehead. Immediately after, Yao Zai's mother suddenly emerged from the bowl. After Ah Ren's death, Hashimoto's other assistant, Hami, also saw that thread. This scene scared her so much that she covered her eyes and crouched on the ground. But just as she removed her hand, she saw Yao Zai's mother lying in front of her. When ADong hurried back to the lab, Hami had already turned into a corpse. Seeing this, ADong finally understood. The reason Yao Zai's mother wanted to kill them was actually to save her son's ghost. Therefore, the urgent task is to find the culprit, Hashimoto. No one would have thought that Hashimoto was currently standing on the ceiling of the investor's house. Clearly, Meng Jia's sponge research had been successfully completed. However, this was not meant to show off, but rather for revenge. Then, Hashimoto took out a counter. The numbers on it represent his hatred for this investment boss. Every time you call me lame, I press the counter once. Hashimoto, filled with hatred, killed the other person. Then he came to the place where Yoshi was buried, preparing to commit suicide here and become a ghost. It turns out that his research on Meng Jia's sponge was just a cover. Hashimoto's true purpose has always been to become a ghost, only because he suffers from ALS, which is still incurable. Living only adds to his suffering. Only by becoming an immortal ghost can he find relief. At this moment, ADong finally contacted Hashimoto by phone, reminding him that if he doesn't let go of Yoshi, they will all be killed. But for Hashimoto, who is determined to die, he no longer cares about the lives of others. So ADong could only watch helplessly. Yoshi's mother's ghost entered his car and intended to crush his heart. ADong could only jerk the steering wheel immediately. He forced a car accident. This managed to shake off the ghost and barely saved his life. However, Yoshi's mother clearly did not intend to let him go. She even chased him all the way to the subway station. Even when ADong fired several shots at her, it was of no use. He could only let the female ghost squeeze his heart. However, he could never have imagined, just as he was about to die, Yoshi's soul suddenly appeared and saved him. It turned out that Hashimoto wanted to become an immortal ghost. He actually reopened Meng Jia's sponge before committing suicide. He released Yoshi's ghost. He prepared to put his own ghost inside. Then he slit his throat with a knife to commit suicide. But Hashimoto could never have imagined. He thought Yoshi and his mother became ghosts out of hatred. The truth is quite the opposite. The reason they became ghosts too is actually because they were always concerned about each other. It turns out that Yoshi's mother was ruthless in killing her son, actually to prevent him from living in pain any longer. Mom doesn't want to see you live in such pain. She doesn't want to see you live in this world forever looked down upon by others. Thank you, Mom. So the necessary condition to become a ghost has never been hatred, but rather that love that cannot be let go of. In other words, the scheming Hashimoto actually ended up taking his own life. Alright, that's it for today's story. I am Shang Zhu. See you next time.